Another opportunity to sit down and chat with MIAA Commissioner Mike Racy. Sir, thank you as always for coming on. It's been 2 weeks, but a lot has transpired here around the MIAA, and a lot to look forward to now as we're, school's back in session for some of the MIAA schools too.
Yeah, good to see you, Chris. Yeah, we're ramping up. I know it's still summer, and some schools aren't back in session yet, but certainly our fall sports teams are busy getting ready for the season. We're busy in the office, getting ready for first games and contests, and we're ready to go.
I know we've talked kind of off camera about some topics we want to bring up, and one of them we've talked about a lot of wanting to give plenty of time to is the mental health initiative. And there's been a lot of push, I think, a lot more since the pandemic, everything about the importance of the mental health for student athletes and everything. Just where are you guys at with your mental health initiative, and what you guys have maybe learned over the past 2 years, especially when there wasn't sports, but also now that it's been brought back to after the pandemic canceled quite a bit of games?
Yeah, this is an important area, Chris, and we've talked about it before, but we this summer we made some news with a new partnership that we have with the U.S. Council for Athletes' Health. They go by USCA, and it's a group out of Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, and it's was founded a few years ago by a collection of sports medicine physicians and former collegiate athletic trainers, and they're really the industry leader in being an association that through education, outreach, counseling, specific work like they're doing for the MIAA, tries to help colleges and universities and conferences get better in care and protection in student athletes and looking out for their well-being. We were the first conference to partner with the U.S. Council for Athletes' Health. We did this back in January of 2020, a few months before COVID started to shut everything down. And when we entered into this partnership, we didn't know how important it would be to the MIAA as it relates to COVID, as it related to our response to COVID, but it certainly was. The U.S. Council for Athletes' Health, they were directly responsible for helping the MIAA and our member schools, figure out a path forward during COVID, and how do we get our student athletes back on the courts? How do we get them back in practice? How do we get them back in competition, but do it in a safe manner? So we've been working with USCA for the last couple of years. I think they've now partnered with 20 some conferences in Division I and Division II. But we say with pride, we were their first conference client. And we started talking to them last spring, Chris, about, now that, things are related to the pandemic, it's still all around us. We're still dealing with staff members and coworkers and friends and family that are testing positive for COVID. But we needed to turn our attention to a more important initiative, and that is just the mental health of all of our student athletes. And we learned a lot, I think, during COVID with, separation from sports, separation from each other, having to do without these things that we really hold very important. And how do we cope with that? How do we deal with that? How do we take care of each other when we're struggling and we can't, reach out and give each other a hug? So, mental health, not just for student athletes, but everywhere on campus, everywhere in society is so important. So we talked to USCA last spring. We need to find a way that we can work together and bring USCA's expertise and experience and resources to work with our MIAA institutions, with the conference office, and help our student athletes and even our coaches and staff in this space. So we had our launch this summer, Chris, with our athletic trainers and our athletic administrators, and in our partnership with USCA, there'll be these quarterly webinars and things that we'll be doing with our student athletes, and it's all centered around this idea of wanting in the MIAA to build a culture of mental wellness, and we can talk a little more about what that means, but that's our goal, and it's not going to happen in 1 year. You know, we're going to have to work hard as a conference to build, you know, this what we're calling a culture of mental wellness and mental health, and through USCA's help and through the cooperation of our institutions, we'll work together to hopefully establish that culture.
And you know, mental health has been one of those topics of conversations I think in the past have been kind of taboo to bring up just in public, but I think that's, like you talked about, it's becoming more okay to talk about the mental health that you're either going through, dealing with, or improving through. How big is that piece of it, that, you know, what the MIAA, what you guys are wanting to do is a safe way for student athletes to talk about their mental wellness, and it's not a, okay, well, you've got something going on, we don't need you type of thing, like maybe in years past? How much is this about, you know, this is okay to talk about, there's no repercussions obviously for discussing what's going on?
Well, that's where we have to start in intercollegiate athletics, because there is that stigma, Chris, that you know, that everything's fine, we're all okay, and if you are dealing with something, you know, you can fix that on your own. You know, we're all tough. We're tough athletes. We're tough mentally as volleyball student athletes, or cross country runners, or football players, and we have to address that stigma. But I made a couple of notes during our webinar. We had our kickoff webinar, as I said, in late July, and it lasted a couple of hours. In the first half, we dedicated to about an hour conversation with the experts from the U.S. Council on Athletes' Health for about an hour dedicated to mental health. And just a couple of things, you know, related to this idea of creating a culture of mental wellness. One of the first points made was that, you know, mental wellness needs to be looked at on our campuses and in our athletics departments as more than just an absence of mental illness. And that's, you know, that's getting at the point that you're talking about, you know, that we're not talking about a mental illness. We're not talking about, you know, something that necessarily needs physician treatment or medication. We're talking about mental wellness that all of us need to be thinking about. All of us need to really to do these self checks, and to work with our friends and our teammates and our coaches and athletic department staff, and have open and honest communication about how we're doing. What are we coping with? You know, what's bothering us? How can I help you? You know, let's spend some time together after practice and talk about it. But it's a state of well-being where the individual realizes that his or her own abilities and their ability to cope with the normal stresses in life can work productively and fruitfully, and they're able to make contributions to his or her community. That's what mental wellness is. It's the ability to handle all of these stresses and problems and issues that all of us are dealing with, and we need to understand that. I need to understand that about you. You need to understand that about me, that we're dealing with things that sometimes can become overwhelming. And the culture, our culture of mental wellness, will be that culture that helps us recognize when a teammate, a friend, a colleague and all of these stresses and things that they're trying to cope and deal with are are overwhelming, and we need to help that individual. We need to be there for that individual. We need to help point them in a direction if they need some additional resources, that they can get that assistance. So that was empowering to me when I heard our friends at USCA talking about mental wellness being different than mental illness, and what that means, what mental wellness looks like, and how we need to recognize when people are struggling to deal with all of these issues. But we talked about that culture around mental health or mental wellness, and it is about reducing that stigma, and empowers mental health, or empowers our athletes and our coaches and our staff to seek help, to check in on each other, to point people to resources. Our campuses and communities have wonderful resources. We need to make sure that our student athletes and others connected to our athletic department know where those are, how they can access them, when they can access them, and all of those steps. But athletic directors and coaches are really on the front line, Chris, of helping us create this culture. And we must, part of that, we must create an inclusive environment. We need to make sure that our staff and personnel are properly trained and educated and able to identify when someone around them is having some issues and needs some assistance. And we need to remove any obstacles that might exist for folks connected to our athletic departments in seeking care and seeking the help they need.
Is that one of maybe the biggest hurdles kind of in the beginning will be maybe trust isn't the right word, but that openness to being vulnerable at the same time? Because when you think of athletic directors or coaches, sometimes it's that the boss mentality, maybe, so to speak, where I can't speak my mind. But, I know in a lot of teams in the MIAA, especially, with Missouri West, Northwest, there is that openness, that there is an ability to go talk to them if something's going on. Is that maybe one of the things that has to be taken care of? You got to make sure they know they can come to you if there's something going on, and not feel like, the boss, employee, even though it's not the same type of an analogy there either.
Yeah, I think that's priority one, that in staff meetings and team meetings and, whatever sessions we're talking about, helping those individuals understand that it's okay if you need some help, and it's okay to talk about that. And if I can help you find that help or find the resources that you need, I'm here for you. We talk about love and family and togetherness a lot in athletics, and this is our way. This is the place we can prove it. Off the field, how do we love each other? How do we care for each other? How do we show each other that we're family? And we need to, we need to remove the negative words that we use. Talking about, that someone's crazy or someone's nuts, or no, we need to put it in a perspective that we need to take care of each other. People come first, and we need to help our student athletes, help our staffs feel that there is a safe space, that they can talk openly about what's bothering them, or what's causing them issues, or what's causing them trouble, or what they're dealing with. And it's not going to cost them a starting spot or a spot on the roster or their scholarship, or, they need to feel like they can, in the same way they can go to a trainer and say, my ankle's bothering me. A student athlete should be able to go to a coach and say, I've got a heavy heart today, and I'm just down. My mom and dad are dealing with this, and it's impacting my ability to focus. And I feel like I need to talk to somebody. A student athlete should be able to have that conversation and get that assistance or help from our campuses. And I think on most of our MIAA, on all of our MIAA campuses, most of the time that's what's happening. But we need to bring our A game. We need to take it up a notch. We need to make sure everybody's trained, everyone's got the right education. We're doing all of the things we need to make sure we're ready to go. And that's our commitment as a conference. We're going to bring a focus and attention to this issue like we've never done before.
We'll talk plenty more about the mental health initiative that you guys are, implementing and continuing to go through. Want to shift gears a little bit. Some other news that you guys have broken the last couple of weeks. A lot of feedback, kind of seeing social media, a lot of excitement. The NCAA granting the MIAA and the MIAA moving forward with instant replay, kind of testing it out this fall for football. Probably a lot of questions from people still of how many challenges, but that's, two, it's going to be targeting and the coaches' challenges. That's all it's going to be. But this is a pretty big step forward right now for especially Division II level when it comes to instant replay. Yeah,
this is historical, Chris, and it's exciting for the conference. And I know our coaches are excited about it. I know our officials are excited about it. Conference commissioners a little anxious and nervous whether all this will work, but it's worth a try. And the NCAA, we had to go to them in July and ask for an exception to really do replay in a way that's different than they're doing it in Division I. And the NCAA, they had to jump through a few hoops, but ultimately the Football Rules Committee came back, and the Secretary Rules Editor of NCAA football, and they know our reputation. They know the success that our conference has had in many sports, including football. They know the reputation of Phil Laurie, our supervisor of officials, and the job he does in getting MIAA officials trained and ready to go and moving them up. A number of MIAA officials have gone on to officiate in the Big 12, the Big 10, Southeastern Conference, the NFL. And so we have that reputation. So the NCAA, I think, ultimately decided if we're going to let some non-D1 conference test a replay system, and it might work for Divisions 2 and 3, the MIAA is the right conference to do it. And so we're very proud that we're getting this opportunity. But yeah, fans need to know, Chris, that this is going to look a little different than what they see on Sundays with an NFL replay. And I just asked our MIAA football fans, to a little bit of a reality check. We're working with a different system that we're not going to be able to see everything that people see on Sundays, and because of that, our replay policies look a little different in the way that we do things, and we can get into more detail about that if you want.
Yeah, let's kind of go into that a little bit. I guess what is the instant replay going to entail? Because I mean, with Division II, like we talked about before, cost has always been a big issue of getting the camera angles. Can all the schools do it? I guess what is this going to look like for the MIAA?
Yeah, so in Division I, like the NFL, they have a replay booth. And in some professional sports, the replay booth is actually in New York. In college football, Division I college football, the replay booth is there at the stadium, and they have a replay staff, and they have a number of camera angles, and they can stop every play if they see something they want to take a look at. And I worry about that just in the length of a game. If you're gonna stop every play and take a look at something, we're going to be there for 4 hours, and no one's having fun at that point. Plus, you disrupt the flow of the game and the momentum. And so what we went to the NCAA and asked, said, we want replay to be a system that's actually managed on the field. That if we have a call that needs to be looked at, we want our referee, our white hat, to be the individual that looks at that play. And whether it's a targeting call, and all of those will be reviewed automatically. So every targeting call, our referee will go to the replay tent on the sideline, look at an iPad, and make a decision whether the elements of targeting are there, or if any are missing. That student athlete that's ejected on a targeting call will go immediately back into the game. So that's a huge benefit. We get the benefit of reviewing every targeting call immediately, and if our officials got it wrong, we're going to get that student athlete back in the game. And then, as you mentioned, instead of looking at every play up in the booth, the rest of replay is controlled and managed by our coaches. And our coach, each head coach will get one challenge, and they can make that challenge as long as they have a timeout left, timeout in the first half or a timeout in the second half, doesn't matter. They can make a challenge to a call if they've got a timeout left. If they get the challenge right, Chris, they don't burn their timeout, and they keep their challenge. They can use it one more time. So the maximum that each team would have during a game would be the ability to challenge 2 plays. They'd have to get the first one right, but they could challenge 2 plays. So, thinking about an MIAA Saturday afternoon football game, we might have maybe 2 targeting calls that would get reviewed, and then each coach could challenge up to 2 plays. So 4 additional challenges. Our officials will be able to get over to the replay tent, and there'll be an iPad there. And that iPad, Chris, is pulling plays from 2 cameras. The camera that's in the press box or on top of the press box, filming from a sideline angle for our coaches film, and then also an end zone camera, excuse me, sometimes on a scissor lift, again elevated with an end zone angle, and so 2 wide angles, an end zone and a sideline on every play that our referees would be able to look at, and they're able to zoom in, they're able to fast forward or slow motion. So they're going to have a lot of tools with this system where they can slow things down, zoom in, take a close look at something. But again, only 2 angles, sideline, end zone. We're probably not going to have that NFL look on whether or not a toe's out of bounds.
No pylon cam.
We may not have that pylon look at a goal line, whether the ball crossed the goal line or not. So our coaches understand that, and they're going to have to be careful with their challenge. They don't want to challenge something that may look to a coach in the coaching booth to be a mistake, but we're just not going to get a good angle on that with the 2 camera shots we have. Our coach is going to have to eat that and say, look, that's not worth the risk of losing my challenge and losing a timeout over that play in the first half that we may not have a good view of. So there's some strategy involved here as well of when coaches are going to want to use that challenge. But, as we mentioned, the real benefit, Chris, is on this targeting issue. And, the speed of the game and the way our student athletes are able to tackle and bring people down, and sometimes what looks like a dangerous head-to-head collision might not be when you're able to look at it on film. And the MIAA this year will have the benefit that if we've got that call wrong, that student athlete's not going to miss the game. We can get them right back in.
Exciting time for the MIAA with instant replay. Commissioner Mike Racy, I'll get you out here on this. Some more exciting news for you guys coming down the pipeline. It sounds like a partnership that you guys have had for a while, maybe expanding a little bit, or
absolutely, yeah. I'm always thrilled to talk about our the businesses and companies that believe in the MIAA and want to come and help us do things. And one of those great partners that they've been with us, I think, for 3 years, and we're going to be announcing tomorrow an extension of that relationship, another 3-year agreement with Mammoth Sports Construction. And Mammoth is, as many know, especially our friends at University of Central Oklahoma and Pittsburgh State, with their beautiful new turf fields. Mammoth is in the turf field business. They've done the field at Kansas State University and MU and dozens of other colleges and universities around the country and high schools throughout Kansas. And but they're a great partner and a great supporter of the MIAA. And they've been really since day one that I became commissioner. And they do more than turf. You know, they're in the sports construction business. Mm-hmm. But we're happy that they've agreed not only to renew their partnership, but we're going to expand that, Chris, into an academic award. And what we're going to have this upcoming year is an award that will recognize at all 17 of our postseason championship sites, and then also football and wrestling, where we don't have postseason tournaments, the top scholar athlete that is competing in the postseason for the MIAA. So let's take, for instance, our soccer tournament. The teams that qualify for our soccer tournament, we'll take a look at all of the rosters, and we'll ask for sophomores and above, a cumulative grade point average, and we'll recognize that student athlete that has the top GPA that's competing in the postseason in that championship. And it really is the best of the best in the MIAA. It's that top scholar that we want to recognize, you know, not only being a great athlete, you know, not only, you know, being a starter or contributor on their team that's made the postseason, but they're performing in the classroom, and they're that type of student that we celebrate in Division II for having that balance to be great on the field, but also in the classroom. And Mammoth is going to help us be able to do that at every one of our championships. So we're excited to start that this year, Chris. And I think it's going to be great to recognize these special student athletes.
Absolutely. A lot of change, a lot of newness for the MIAA starting, well, basically next week when some teams get going with their fall sports seasons. Commissioner Mike Racy, looking forward to the academic year. Should be a lot of fun and a lot of, you know, championships to be crowned too.
Yeah, we had a great year last year, and we hope it's even better this year, Chris. But we're ready, and hope our MIAA fans will come out and support. Just another quick plug: tomorrow, beginning on morning of August 18th, subscriptions are available on the MIAA network. So fans should get out. There's a little bit of a discount for fans that sign up for a monthly subscription or an annual subscription early. So that starts tomorrow, August 18th.
MIAA Commissioner Mike Racy, thank you as always for your time.
Thank you, Chris. Good to see you.